it's very difficult to make it flashy. So I don't see it catching on. The number one reason to get educated today, period, as far as I'm concerned, number one, everything is second, a deep second to this. In our modern world, if you want to have a life that makes sense, doesn't end badly, is productive, the number one reason to get the highest quality education you can is so you can be able to determine with a relatively high success rate what is factual in the information river that is coursing by you every day and what is bogus. To be able to determine fact from falsehood, propaganda from truth. And unfortunately, right now, the internet, remember, came on like gangbusters over the last 25 years. And during the last 25 years, we have seen a decline in education, not an increase in education. We've made college so expensive people can't go. Dropout rates in high school are still very high. We have a population that at the same time, the information river has doubled and tripled and quadrupled and sextupled. The quality of the ability of people to be able to deal with it has gone down. And so we have an enormously asymmetric situation where vast amount of information is available to vast amount of people who cannot determine what is true and what is false. And that is bad enough that if it isn't corrected soon, it will bring down the Republic of the United States and lead to a cascade of consequences that will ultimately end up in more wars, because wars are always built upon stupidity and the inability to determine truth from lies. And so we're in a very dire situation. It is my hope that the announcement of the extraterrestrial presence, the final confirmation worldwide that we're not alone, there's other civilizations, advanced civilizations around longer than us with extraordinary technology, including interstellar drive and genetic sciences and other things, will ignite in the human race a desire to, whoa, we need to catch up. We need to be part of that too. It will ignite a huge interest in science, which will have people lining up around the block to sign up for science courses and math courses because they all want to go to the stars and a lot of other stuff. It could create an age of reform that could correct this situation. That is my hope. But if we have disclosure of the extraterrestrial presence and the human race says, oh, there's other ETs here, what do we give a shit, and just continue to bumble forward, well, that will be a shame. But I don't think that's going to happen. And so that's just a taste of what is at stake in disclosure versus no disclosure. I mean, I've heard all the arguments against disclosure ad infinitum, and none of them hold up. They're all essentially not fallacious so much as not satisfactory.
Oh,
the arguments for disclosure are profound. We have got to have something dramatic here very soon. We live in a world where I think it's still possible, though there has been maybe some adjustments there, where until at least recently, you could go online and get the basic design and schematics for building an atomic bomb. Meaning anybody in the world that had access to the internet, which is approximately right now 3.5 billion people, could go find how to build an atomic bomb. And you say, okay, that's extreme. Okay, look, you can go online and learn how to build IEDs.
Oh yeah.
How to download 3D plastic guns you could take on airliners. And there are people out there dumb enough to do it. We are living in an asymmetric situation, which is threatening to the human race on many levels. And again, and I'll be talking about this in Baltimore for those who show up at the AlienCon. I am firmly convinced, though I cannot prove, that is one of the very significant reasons why the ETs made the decision to go public in 1947, as opposed to maybe just hanging back, abduct some people, don't make a big splash for another 100 years. No. As of 1947, we had reached a point where they needed to intervene in ways that we don't fully understand yet, but I know it leads to disclosure and possibly open contact. In other words, they may not like us. They may think we're a bunch of idiots, but they have a certain appreciation for what we've done and sentience and all that. And the idea that we simply destroy ourselves would be somewhat of a loss, a bit of a waste. And so they have taken an interest. And somehow that interest is going to lead to a massive change, which hopefully will lead to a significant shift in the human destiny, which right now is bleak.
Yeah.
7 billion, 8 billion, 9 billion, 15 billion, massive wars over water, mass starvation, unbelievable suffering. People don't die easy. They tend to fight or put up a fuss. Terrorism, endless terrorism. Nightmarish shit is coming.
Yeah, and that's what's scary.
In the middle of this, we have extraterrestrials here, and the government won't announce it. So now you understand what keeps me going 22 years on, right? And even Stanton Friedman going 56 years on. Linda Moulton Howe, 45 years on.
Well, then
the biggest issue in the world today.
And then you have people, that put hours and hours in, like Peter Davenport, who comes on our show quite often, with the reports. I will say this, because the time is almost up. Michael W. Hall is a lawyer in Washington State. He runs the UFO I team. Plus being on my show Saturdays as a host. He's also a ex-Superior Court judge pro tem. Very much into, trying to prove that UFOs exist or don't exist. And, we had him on last night, and he had an encounter with a group of his colleagues back, I think, on August 27th and 28th at Mount Adams, which, I tried debunking a lot of what he said. It's kind of hard on some things. I really think that, and I'm going to just say this to the listeners, he had an encounter of something because some strange things happened. They saw a light that also sent out like a blue, like laser light from it. That night, he has because he has health issues, he has a sleep machine, help him breathe. That shut off with a 50% battery life. And the thing is, there's an hour and a half of time that's totally accounted. It's not accounted at all. And, it keeps track of the time. The other issue is there was one of the guys there. It had a 2-year-old car. That night, there was also a big flash when that blue light came. The car has become magnetized with a north and south pole on polarity on the car. It's just kind of a lot of strange things, So what I say is a lot of people will sit there and say, "Well, there's no such thing as UFOs." You got to have an open mind. We're not the only planet out there with life.
Gary, look, the ET presence has been proven many times over. Those that don't see it yet, that's okay. They'll figure it out in their own good time. We need to move forward. And so what your friend needs to know, obviously he's a very intelligent person, is that in the last 30 years, as many as 1 million reports have been submitted to researchers, usually by email or letters, not phone calls. And they're in their files right now. I think Strieber has over 500,000 in his file about contact with ETs. And a huge number of them, hundreds of thousands, involve being in the same room with them, not seeing a light and having your car magnetized. So if your friend ever has that happen to him, I guess his doubts will be removed once and for all. But again, he's just one person.
Oh, yeah.
God knows how many contactees there are. It could be 2% of the entire Earth's population, based upon, and that's the low-end estimate, based upon various surveys that have attempted to try to get a handle on it. Maybe it's only 1%, huge number. Contact in the same room, taken out of their bedrooms, floated through their bedroom windows without opening the window. All that's been now well documented. Those that don't get it, what can I say?
Yeah.
I assure you there are tons of people that do get it, that work in government, work in the Defense Department, work in the CIA and the Army and the Navy and the Air Force, who won't speak of it because the government has embargoed it and it could cause them problems.
Oh, yeah.
But the idea that they don't know, hell, all I have to do is read a decent number of high-quality books that are in a public library. So we're living in this bizarre situation where an increasing number of people know an extraordinary truth the government will not confirm. Not just the government, every government in the world will not confirm, and takes measures to block and undermine, while it conducts vast amounts of activities in hard secrecy. So the thing that's absolutely true and in the open, the government would not acknowledge, while they're doing an enormous amount of things in secrecy that they won't acknowledge. And somehow this is going to make for a healthy democracy. This is going to make for good decision making. This is going to make for an informed public. I don't think so. And so it's a pretty bizarre situation, but I'll tell you something. There have been bizarre situations in the past. 12th century, 9th century, 3000 BC, whatever the hell.
Yeah.
But none of them are as interesting as this. So I'm not complaining. This is as good as it gets. Right? My life prior to 1996 was basically boring as hell. I almost just left it because what was the point? I wasn't depressed so much. I was depressed, but it was like, what's the point? There's nothing going on in my life because I'm obviously a failed person. I tell you, I haven't had a bored day since 1996, and it hasn't been easy. But bored, I have not been. Intrigued, I have always been. I've made thousands of Facebook friends, Twitter contacts, and hundreds of colleagues. Part of that, I had maybe 2 friends, and I don't think I even sent a letter for 20 years. I'm lucky. This is a very complicated, difficult situation, but it's the most interesting the human race has ever seen, and here we are.
And we're
and
living
so
it right now.
I am blessed, and look forward, hopefully, to seeing disclosure happen. And when it does happen, every single researcher, activist, radio talk show host, contactee, every organization will have played a role in bringing about this event. Every one of them will know, if they're still alive, and we keep losing people every day, as you probably know, that they were part of this happening. And it's a big lot of people. And if the human race is wise, and governments are wise, they will make sure that all of this work by all of this people is acknowledged and recorded and archived so that the rest of the future human race will be able to look back and know what happened, how it happened, and then build on that.
Oh, yeah. You could.
That's my...
I couldn't even say it. I couldn't even say it as well as you did. I will say one...
That's my job, Gary, to say things well. That's what
I will say this, my friend Art Bell, if it wasn't for him, making that decision after John Lear came and sat and talked to him and said, hey, Art, you don't like doing political broadcast talk shows. Go into the paranormal. I think when Art made that decision to go on that ride and go into the paranormal and go into UFOs and aliens and encounters and stuff, it really, I can see it really opened up the field where people really accepted it a lot more in the last 20 some years than they ever did before. And I just want to say, my hats to Art Bell on that, because, I'm not just saying that to say it, but I think he's done a lot, just like you and so many other people in the field. If it wasn't for people like you, we would be so much more behind.
Art Bell was a legend. I'm just a poor political activist. But let me say, he made another critical decision. Because after he starts his show, which I think was called Coast to Coast back then, the Art Bell Show. I think it was Coast to Coast, whatever. He gets up, but then the politics of the ET issue, the politics of UFOs, we used to call it, starts to get going in the mid-'90s. And Art made the decision that as much as he hated politics, he would let that come on. He would bring it on, and he let me on. And I started getting on. I've done now, 65 coast to coasters. I don't know how many. It's a lot number of, but I did a lot with Art Bell. And I'm not the UFO guy. I'm not coming on talking about sightings. I'm coming on about the politics of